Welcome back to another video of Android Development Series 2025, and today we're making a video call app using ZEGOCLOUD's UI kit. And just so you know, ZEGOCLOUD provides APIs and SDKs for video, audio, and chat applications. They make it easier for us to integrate these features into our app easily and with low code. So without further ado, let's begin. So when you register to ZEGOCLOUD using the link in the description or the comment section, you can get 10,000 free minutes, as you can see. So once you're done with that, let's begin. Create your first project. And as you can see, there are many other applications that we can make. So this video is sponsored by ZEGOCLOUD, and now we're going to begin making our voice and video call app. Click on next and name your project. We're naming it Sigma Meet. Yeah. Start with UI kits. And now it's going to create our project. So once we're done with this, we're going to make an Android project and we're going to add dependencies. And then we can code. It's almost done. Sigma Meet. Video call app for the Sigmas. Yup. Almost done. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to choose for Android, because obviously. And now we're going to choose one-on-one call or group call, any of these. So we're going to choose a group call. Although we can configure it in the code itself from the Android Studio. And now you're going to have your app ID and app sign. And we're going to use this in the project itself. So your work is done here, and now we can go to the Android Studio and make your project. Once you're done setting up the project, go to Dashboard and open up your project, View Guide, Quick Start, and here you're going to find the dependencies that I'm going to use in the project. So let's dive in. So now let's set up the dependencies in settings.gradle.kts and Gradle scripts. Go to Dependency Resolution Management in Repositories, Google, Maven Central, and then you're going to add yours. The one that you copied from the website. Like so. But wait, it doesn't work because it's Groovy and we're using Kotlin. So do the same. And it's going to work. This is a function and this is 2. And it works. Okay, and now you can go to build.gradle.kts, and here you're gonna add implementation. And we're going to copy the implementation that was provided on the website, like so. And now we're going to sync. So it's going to sync and it's going to download all these dependencies that you're going to see right, well, any second now. Yeah, it's done. Now I want you to go to main activity from Kotlin plus Java and all that directories and main activity. Inside main activity, you're going to make another activity called call activity. And call activity would be extended by a fragment activity. Like so. You're going to import this class and now write this function override fun on create. Yeah, it's going to do that itself. You can remove this. And this. Now you're going to write enable edge to edge. And set content. Okay. Looks like we're missing something. Call activity, override fun on create, save instance state. Okay, so this should be inside the onCreate function. That's why it was showing an error. Okay, now it works. Perfect. Now we're also going to write Sigma meet theme. Okay. Now that's done, and we can just delete this. Now that's your main activity. Your main activity would be call activity for this application. And now let's open up Android manifest.xml. And you can see that it's red right now because main activity does not exist anymore. And instead what exists is call activity. Also, add style theme Sigma meet, that's fine. And yeah, everything else is fine. You're just going to go to values, themes.xml, and here we're going to use app compat. Now wait, this is fine. Open this up, theme.sigma-meet, clean.sigma-meet. Yes, that should be fine. Okay, now define a composable inside main activity. This composable would be called call screen. And just so you know, this app will only have one call screen, and it's gonna ask you some details, and then you're gonna join the meeting. Yep. So meet you in the next video where we're gonna implement this call screen. Alright, just a heads up. So I missed this. You're gonna need to copy this and paste it again, and we're gonna name it, and the pattern should be theme.material components instead of material. And now you can delete this or comment this out. Well, it's a crucial part of our app. If you're gonna mess this up, your app's not gonna run. And make sure theme.sigmameet is the correct name, and it matches it. Because it does, we can move on now. Just components.daynight dot no action bar. Okay. Now to define call screen, you're gonna write fragment manager of type Android X dot Android X dot fragment app dot fragment manager. Yes. And then you're gonna add a surface to this, to your call activity. Inside you're gonna have a modifier dot fill max size, so it fills the entire screen, but it leaves space for the notification bar. And then you're gonna call your composable here and pass support fragment manager. Yep. And now we're gonna come to the main logic. So first we have user ID, which would be by remember mutable state of empty string, and you're gonna have to import operator mutable state dot set value. Yeah, it sometimes doesn't import it on time, but it's done. User ID and meeting ID by remember mutable state of empty, so we can define it ourselves. And you're gonna have a variable joined mutable state of false. Now if you're not joined to the meeting, we're gonna have a column. Yeah, it became cool for a second. But we're gonna have a column, and otherwise you'll be launched into the meeting. Okay, let's import function column, and modifier should be modifier.padding, fill max size, and the padding should be 24 dp. Okay, now you have to import extension property int.dp. Done. And now the arrangement should be vertical. Wait a second. Vertical arrangement should be centered. Basically, you're gonna have a form here where you're gonna have an outlined text field for your user ID and your meeting ID, and a button that you can press to join a meeting. So that's the setup for our first screen. So outlined text field and a spacer to create some space between the two text fields. And then finally a button. And the button would say join meeting. Simple as that. And it's going to have an icon. Let's import the icon function. Yeah, once it's done, image vector should be icons dot. Okay, now we gotta import icons too. Import object icons. So icons dot video. Okay, if you don't see that, if you see an error named unresolved reference video, you need to add another dependency in your build.gradle.kts, and this would be implementation icons pack extended. Yes, this one. Android-x.compose.material material icons extended. Yeah, you get it. So sync now, and it's going to download those icons, and it's done. Now go back to your main activity and try again. Icons.default.video call. Okay. Now that's done, but it's going to show an error. So it needs a content description of what the icon is. So it's a join meeting icon, I guess. That should be enough. And now we're going to add an on click. It'll be empty for now. And we're going to add a modifier, which would be fill max width because it's a button. Okay. So now we're going to define the outlined text field, which would be value equals user ID, and on value change, it's going to change the value of username of user ID to the one that you enter, and then it's going to have a label, which is, of course, user ID, and it's going to have a shape, rounded corner shape, 12 dp, and also a modifier. It's going to fill max width. Okay, that's about it. And now for the spacer, you're going to have a modifier, height, modifier.height 12 dp. Let's copy this, value on value change, label, modifier, and shape. Okay. Now, this would be user. This should be meeting ID. And on value change, it would update the meeting ID variable to whatever you type. And label should of course be meeting ID. And yeah, that's about it. And we're going to have another spacer between outline text field and the button. And it's going to be 24 dp. So just so you know, we're using column because it stacks things vertically, and we are going to add to onClick if user ID is not blank, and if meeting ID is not blank. Well, if it's not blank, you're gonna change the join to true, because then the button is pressed and it'll turn the join variable to true from false, and then we're gonna have our else logic play out. Yeah. So for our else logic, we're gonna have, well, app ID, which would be a string. Well, app signature, which would also be a string. Wait, app ID would be long because it's a number. So you're going to enter your app ID and your app signature. Okay, once you've done that, and then we have user ID, which would be an encrypted one. But wait, didn't we define that before? Oh. Now we got to change this to username, and also got to change it here and here. Yeah. And maybe just let it be user ID there, but change it here. Okay, so user ID is a robust user ID because it's got its username like so. If you're still watching, hang in there, we're almost done. So username and this underscore, and we have the UUID, random ID, and I'm just gonna fill it with any number for now, but you gotta fill it with the ZEGOCLOUD's project's app ID and app sign. Inside your project, you're gonna have an app ID and app signature. You're gonna copy and paste it here. Yeah, it's that simple. And now let's define a configuration. Config equals ZEGO UI kit prebuilt call config dot group video call. Well, it can be a group or a one-on-one video call. We're just gonna stick with group. And now we're gonna define an Android view with modifier equals modifier dot fill max size, because we want the video screen to fill the maximum size it can on our screen. And factory parameter would receive an empty function block, and inside it we're going to have a context. This context would be used by frame layout context dot apply, and we're going to apply ID equals view dot generate view ID. So the frame would take a view, and its ID is what we need for, hold on, we need it for the fragment manager. And we're going to begin the transaction, and we're going to replace, we're going to use it here, ID equals ID. And then we have the ZEGOCLOUD fragment, ZEGO UI kit pre-built call fragment, a new instance of this, and we're going to add our app ID. Wait a minute. Call ID app ID equals app ID equals app ID, and app signature would be app signature, like we added, like we defined before right here. Now it's being used. And you have user ID, username, user ID, username. We defined it like this. And we have the call ID, which is called meeting ID for us. And finally, we have the config. And yeah, what? That better? Yes. And finally, we're going to commit this. We're going to call commit after replace. Okay, so I figured out the problem, and it was really silly. So it was supposed to be replace, and this is what it was before, but you just gotta remove the ID because that's not a valid parameter of replace function. And then you're gonna call commit function after replace, like so. And now you're done. Congratulations on your video call app, and now we're gonna test it. Let's go. Alright, the time has come. Now it's time to run the app on our emulator first. Select run, and it's gonna run. Okay, we're in the app. Now you can type any user ID that you want. I'm gonna type this, and meeting ID can also be anything, like literally anything. Yes, you can join that meeting too. And we're in. Now I'm gonna join a meeting from my phone too and see how that goes. But before that, I'm gonna need to exit this and join again. 1, 2, 3, 4, join meeting. And I'm gonna come with another name into the same meeting. Boom. Now I'm in the meeting, but as you can hear, but the thing is, the emulator doesn't support microphone and camera. So I'm going to show you another demo right after this. So look, I exited from my phone, and now it's just this emulator phone. So exit it too. Okay, now we're going to dive into the real demo. And it works. So you can mute the camera, mute the mic, and you can turn off the camera. And more people can join this meeting if they enter the same meeting ID. And that's about it. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks ZEGOCLOUD for sponsoring this video. And subscribe to the channel for more Android wizardry.